It's getting difficult for me to watch my own videos because there's so many of them. The magnitude of the aggression involved and the negligence and evasions of the community trust that I've tried to address is so harrowing that the best I can do is hope that I stabilize my own thought about these things by review and discourse comes to me that actually brings into light more or less what I know to have happened in a way that isn't so much a challenge as it is a resolution of understanding of the forces that were at work. I'm not sure I can do a good job with this one because I don't understand why someone would do what they did to begin with. I wouldn't have done to a person what was done to me in a million years. Um, the woman who they contracted on me did not tell me she was married. I didn't get back together with her because she divulged it to me the next day. So they're leading with a left hook that is a libel. And someone might say you should defend it as justified because they can't do what they did over adultery. Well, the problem with that is that it's not what happened. So I can't do it that way. It wouldn't have happened that way. So, and they, of course, don't take marriage seriously at all. They vilify marriage. It's just routines that they pull. But one of the most important routines was the way they refracted hostility. They said, we will Margaret Mead this situation. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts was a very tasteless thing for their attorney to tell somebody in a medical library at the beginning of the atrocity, especially if they knew what was going on. Yet they carried the day. And I tried to I did not attend their 1C conference. I did find their 1C, pre 1C conference letters. But if you don't know what the 1C conference was, they found the minutes of the meeting for the final solution. And of course, Stephen Langer said in the end of a paper, this is about Homer, that this is what any listener ought to see. Making a pun on Odyssey, he spelled it Odyssee. 1C is spelled Wannse. And the letter file was horrifically justifying things like taking people's appendages from them. And it turned out that this is what Seattle is actually doing as an administration. But it wouldn't have occurred to a public school student in Pittsburgh that anything like that could possibly be real. That adults would stand for it, that administrators would signatory it. I didn't attend their 1C conference, but I suspect something like this went on. Let us judge what the city will call to its defense as a means to civilize the necessary barbarian. It will call to shame us for the way we treat non-violent people. So we know that the instinct to combat and protect is sacred. Yet thou shalt never leave the nonviolent undefended. So here's how we outmeet them with our highness. We equate public warning to save lives, to eliminate, to save lives, to bring about social distancing until the contagion is under control. Responsible behavior. We curtail that. We censor that. We disallow that. And we call it an evil instinct to protect by nonviolence. And they are trying to get you to protect innocent, at-risk people by nonviolence instead of engage in a spinner beanie orgy of touchy blood hazing, of you're trying to break contact with us. How dare you pull away from me? What's wrong with you? Don't you want mine? How dare you try to say that you're better than me? Because to save lives is forbidden. It is forbidden to protect the at risk because one size fits all. And we are all partners in the stage production. And he who says failure to warn is a moral uh, a moral failure. He's the thithy. He didn't want you to fight. He didn't want you to fight back. So the sacred instinct to fight back is not to be used against the attackers who con jobbed everybody. It's to be used against the thithy who tried to warn you to save lives. And this is a military absolute character we call honor. And this Spinner Beanie stuff actually went on in the 1C conference behind the scenes at the University of Pittsburgh. It involved the NAACP. It involved that creep, Jesse Jackson. It involved Congress. It involved Hollywood, Reagan, Obama, Peter Gabriel's Jeffin Corporation. It's what happened. And we all have to fucking live with it. What I suggest you do is call a moratorium on the stupidity of it. I don't see any way that it can be undone. It's Brian Eno's taking Tiger Mountain by strategy translated into the real flesh and blood world. And all the competing interests involved amount to a failure to do anything effective to prevent this kind of catastrophe. And you keep demanding that you hear it over and over and over again. As though it's engrossing to these people to do something that's disgusting. Unparalleled duplicity. It certainly has nothing to do with pornography because pornography is a sustainable adventure. You can turn off your TVs if you hate television and say that we hate television, including pornography. That's fine with me. Who cares? We have a civilization that has to be protected. We have to get better at protecting our civilization. We need to understand experts. We need to form eco schools. We need to stop the oil industry from polluting so badly that our house is overheating and on fire. We have to do that. We can't just scrub away the history books. We can't just pretend that what I just told you didn't happen. There was a 1C conference, and it did go something like that. Without think we can shame us with nonviolence when the real shame is that they won't fight back. So we'll teach the victims to fight the people who believe in nonviolence. So hand to you. When the only point is I suffered atrociously trying to warn people. And they got everybody saying, nah, nah. And it was not me who wanted it to spread. They thought of every single thing. The moral hijinks about HIV stops with me got started with Jay Inslee's crowd, right? And you don't see the connection. You can't connect. They say connect the dots. Connect the dots between HIV stops with me and 6 feet apart or 6 feet under that came with COVID. 6 feet apart or 6 feet under. 6 feet apart or 6 feet under. These are not responsible leaders. These are people picking up the pieces of their favorites at Exxon and Mobil Corporation. They're picking up the pieces. The sadistic crazies who hate public education. They hate public discourse. They hate the idea of warning people so that they can protect themselves. They hate the idea of nonviolent information being effective in protecting people. That's the big bogey monster. That there can be something more effective than the vitriol and the bandwagon and the huge missiles at bringing on public safety. And they target children and say that it's sacred trust to manhood. It must teach children to be child soldiers. And this is going on seemingly everywhere because Hollywood has turned the energy field that comes out of media into a bank of weird hatred and wargismus. I refuse to watch that stuff. It's hard for me to watch any of the melodrama of film noir. It's so weird. Why isn't there anything that's captivating that makes sense in terms of public safety? It's because people don't put their minds to it. Reagan used to talk about good old fashioned American ingenuity. It's always for berserkers. Where's the ingenuity for public safety, for public health, for public happiness, the public safety, for protecting our heritage from an erasure? Erasure. They just want to erase what really happened and upload some sort of cock and bull story. Our society normalized libertinage. It may have been a very bad idea not to talk with children about the future, giving them an expectation that they had a future, and to tell people like little Jimmy that they will have to live with the decisions they make. I wasn't even allowed to live with the decisions that others made about me. They were so crazy that I can't even talk about them. What gives? I mean, it's for the egocentric population of Congress and media, for the open mic bullies on the administration and radios and TVs. They seem to think that hassling somebody to death is a necessary evil for their catharsis. And they call me a serial wanker. What are they doing? What do they think they're doing? I don't understand what in the world you think you're doing. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Somehow they managed to mongrelize the idea of shaming somebody for terroristic violence of a predatory nature on completely innocent people as the enemy. Thou shalt not shame poachers. Because if you shame poachers, it means you're shaming the poacher's victims. And the poacher's victims are going to get you because they can't tell the difference between trying to save lives with nonviolence and telling people to walk like zombies into the gas chamber. I was trying to save lives with information, and that was forbidden. Forbidden. The 1C conference said, no, you cannot warn people. The at risk are forbidden to protect the at risk because one size fits all. One, one size fits all. We are all partners in this great endeavor, and so on and so forth. I don't trust their minds. I don't trust the mind of Paul McCartney. I don't trust the mind of Peter Gabriel. I don't trust the mind of Roger Waters. I don't trust the mind of the Russians who went along with it too. I don't trust their minds. I think what they did was create a backlash against innocent people who wanted to protect innocent people. A backlash against innocent people who wanted to protect innocent people. No, you must not do that, is what they said. You must not protect innocent people. And they got on the radio disguising their voices, pretending to be from a culture they weren't from, and said no one is innocent. What the hell is that supposed to mean? If anybody in Congress knows who these people are, I think they have an obligation to try to persuade law enforcement to put a stop to it. That's what I have been trying to do all along. If you follow my records, you will see that even in an environment where people pointed their finger constantly at anybody who talked about what was really going on underneath the public relations of the city of Pittsburgh, a snitch. Even in that environment, if you follow my record, I tried to get help for the at risk. I wrote to Posvar, I wrote to Louis Lapham. What did these cruddy motherfuckers do? They set me up. They withheld information that I could have used to help protect people. And they made it out to be shaming those who would protect innocent people. You're supposed to be ashamed of not wanting to be sick. You're supposed to be ashamed of wanting help from your community. You're supposed to be ashamed of disliking the people who pulled it. You're supposed to be ashamed of trying to intercept the trajectory of madness. And it goes on and on and on and on. That's why it takes me so long to work out even a short discourse about it, a 20-minute discourse about it, because they've been doing the same loop-de-doop for 60 years, 50 years, 40 years, whatever it has been, 45 years, I guess it's been. Loop-de-doop-de-doop-de-doop for 45 years, getting nowhere but into the depths of psychotic cruelty. They're sinking into the dementia of more and more psychotic cruelty. And so, of course, it's dangerous to shame cults of hate. It's obviously dangerous to shame cults of hate. But Congress should take the side of the victims who are in danger for trying to stop cults of hate. They should, the administrators, the police, the public as a whole, should be united to support victims who are trying to stop the cults of hate. Instead, they sit there thinking, what did the 1C conference say about us again? What did the 1C conference say about us again? Oh, we shouldn't defend ourselves. Well, I hate the victims who say we shouldn't defend ourselves. The victims did not say you shouldn't defend yourself. The victims said you have a right to be protected. At least some of us did. Some of us said that. But others wanted to play absolute. You have no right to speak for the victims unless you get injected. You have no right to play to upstage the Messiah unless you're Sean Straub and Michael Foucault. And this is Brian Eno's spinner beanie at work. Literally. That's literally how he operated. It's a status to be recognized as a saint. So if you want to be recognized as a saint, you're going to let us bring karma down on you. Karma for looking at pornography, because that's the womb in there. That's the womb in there. And you're incarnating a satanic ritual. If that's what people believe, they should vote out pornography. Okay, there's a lot of things I find wrong with the way they do things like pornography. A lot of things I don't like to see, and don't care to comment on, and don't look at. But it's not my responsibility. My responsibility alone. I was 9 years old when they earmarked me. 9 years old. They'd already decided this stuff in 1920. And your spinner beanie, it's the new tinfoil hat, Cornell. Because I never did anything to harm you. I was at the University of Pittsburgh taking half a man's wages and advocating for black advancement. And that's in the records. I'm not making any of it up. And it was before I knew, and even after I knew, what kind of con job you were pulling, using me and targeting me. I'm going to stop now.